All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. The head gasket has finally said no moss. So tonight we're gonna go ahead, get this truck torn apart, kind of show you some of the things to look for with a blown head gasket, and then we'll do a little bit of diagnosis on the head gasket, the head, show you guys how we check it for trueness with the flat bar, and then also how we prep a common rail block and head if we're able to save this one. If not, we'll get it over to the machine shop, get it rushed, so that way we can put it back together this weekend and kind of take you along on this journey. Hopefully you guys like it. So again, here, I'll show you guys. Nice and squishy, right? We have a stone cold engine. It's not even reading. Rock hard. Just rock hard. And then you guys kind of see the whitish haze. It smells like coolant. So anyway, guys, we have a blown head gasket. The other things you guys will hear on these 5, 9, 6, 7 trucks, you hear kind of like a flapping noise. That is when it actually is able to escape out of the gasket to the exterior of the gasket. In my opinion, those are the best head gasket blowouts because you can drive them like that for a while. If you don't want to fix it, you're just going to be down a little bit of power. This one is eating coolant pretty quickly. Get you guys a flashlight in here. So as you can see, our coolant level is down here. It was up here. So I've been driving it back and forth to work for a couple days. I would not recommend doing this. I just didn't really have a choice, number one. Number two, in my head, I was going back and forth on what I wanted to do, just build the engine, rent a car, wasn't sure. But I listened to you guys on Instagram. It looks like you guys want to see rods come out of this block, which, I mean, kudos to you guys, I guess. I'm not really looking forward to that, but hey, whatever. So we're gonna go ahead and fire ring this. So pull the head off. We will examine the gasket. I'll kind of show you guys where it blew. We're gonna cover how to check for flatness on the block and the head. I will then take it to the machine shop, have them surface it. And then here at our shop at Power Driven, I'm gonna go ahead and use the BHJ tool, cut a fire ring all in the head. We'll put it back together with the same 625 head studs with a fire ring head gasket. And I'll kind of walk you guys through a retorque of a hot retorque and then the second retorque. And hopefully get you guys some videos of us beating this thing. Talk to James, making sure the timing's good, fuel is good, to not send a rod out of the block too soon. So we'll just get started. First thing I'm going to do, drain the coolant out of this thing and start pulling the compounds off. It has not milkshaked, so luckily for us, it'll be pretty easy to deal with. Basically, to drain the coolant, I recommend popping this cap loose so it can actually drain out very easy. Put a bucket under there to catch it because I'm going to reuse it. And basically, the compounds are going to come off the same way they go on. Very simple with side-by-sides. I'm a big fan of this. And that's why. Of the coolant, you can clearly see that it is just the orange Hote style coolant, no oil in there. Now, if you're the unfortunate man that blows his head gasket and it milkshakes, basically what you need to do is clean out both the cooling system and the engine. The engine's pretty easy, just put fresh oil in it and drain it after a little runtime. And the coolant, I recommend water, tap water and vinegar. Let it run through a few times, keep draining it, adding water until the foaming stops from the vinegar, and then you're good to put coolant in. So anyway, shout out to my man Everett, who owns Cummins Mafia. Bought a couple stickers from him. Gotta support those that support you. And yeah, hopefully you guys learn a little bit on head gasket diagnosis. All right, so Tyson was here with me. How long did it take to the compound store where we can pull the head?
20 minutes.
Yeah, side-by-sides are just the way to go, folks. So now we're moving on. One tip or trick I don't know if I ever hit on, when you have these style valve covers with the injector harness, before you pull the valve cover off, pull the harness out. Basically, the valve cover bolts will help hold the gasket. That way you don't break the tabs or strain too hard on the wires because they're like solidly mounted right now, pinched in between there. We'll take the intake horn, oil dipstick, and valve cover rocker box off. Start taking the rockers out, get the rail off, kind of work in that orientation. I'm not going to go over in too much detail because we've already done all this when we did injectors and head studs. So the next time you guys will see this, we'll be pretty much naked. Valve train out, push rods out, rail, valve cover, compound turb skis. And we are left with this. I'm going to pull the head with the injectors, manifold, turbine housing on. Everything's unbolted. Don't forget the line on the back of the head. Don't forget your fuel distribution or the fuel filter housing. And then also don't forget the alternator and assorted wires that are attached to the head up front here. Now I'm going to just loosen all the head stud nuts and then spin them out so we can get this head pulled off. Alright guys, now we're going to go ahead and pull the head off. I got everything disconnected. I left the injectors in just because I'm really careful when I pull it off and I don't feel like screwing with them inside. So again, wouldn't recommend it this way for your first time, but if you know what you're doing, it can save you quite a bit of time than doing it in frame. So we'll go ahead and get the chain hooked up and get this lifted off. Alright guys, so we found our blow by cylinder 4. Not really, I bet you the ring probably is in 2 pieces, but I promised you a stock bottom and 1000 horsepower. And if you look, piston, 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 it blew on cylinder 2 to this cooling jacket right here. This piston is also the cleanest. It's got the nice little crusties on there. So there's your blown head gasket. Here's the head. Again, as you guys saw us pull that out, kind of gentle. Injectors all survived the pull. And we're just kind of looking at the cylinder head, see if there's any valve damage, any cracking. We'll throw this in the parts washer and check, but all in all, not bad. Not bad. Around how many miles are on this? I wonder if it's the original head or if it's something different, but I don't see any cracks yet. And you guys know crack kills, but not too bad. We'll move on to getting this head stripped down and getting the block prepped. So we got the head out of the truck, off the chain on the pump cart. I'm gonna go ahead, pull the connecting tubes out, this last injection line out, get the injectors popped out, get the manifold off, get the coolant temp sensor out, get this bracket off, get the lifting eye hook off, and then take the plenum off. Since we are gonna take this to the machine shop, it'll be a lot easier for them. And then I can actually put it in the parts cleaner, get it pretty dang clean after we cut it for firing. So again, this is all stuff you guys have already seen. I'm just gonna cut to it and get it done.
It's like a family tree, part of you. It's your temporary. Go your own way. I won't wait.
Back at you guys. So one of the benefits of working at a diesel shop is having a parts cleaner. I would recommend. It kind of benefits me because obviously cleanup's easier, and I feel like it also benefits you guys because I'm able to clean up a lot of these parts and kind of show you some interesting observations, stuff like that. If you look, there's some staining on the valves, especially number 1. See all this white crust? It's very similar to what coolant looks like when it's getting burned. So I'm almost wondering now, looking at the head gasket would go like this. So as we're looking at it, here's the front of the head, obviously. If you look, it almost looks like 5 and 6 might have actually been leaking compression into each other. Kind of cool to look at. And then if you look, number 5 right here, it definitely got into this blind hole on the gasket here. And then if we look at it on the other side, looks fine. So it definitely looks like the block side might have taken the brunt of it. But what's really interesting, if you come over here, we might have had a little, you just read these head gaskets. Obviously you're playing detective after the fact, but you see right here on number 1, it looks like it might have gotten into this blind hole here. And if you look at the head gasket on the block here, that blind hole would be right here. There is a coolant passage on the head here. So when you look at how it blew into some of these blind holes here, although they don't connect to the block, they do have the coolant pressure of the head right here. So it's kind of interesting. I'm gonna say, my theory at least, is it probably blew into the cooling system here, but I almost wonder if we had a shared compression leak on the head gasket as well, just looking at the coolant stains on the number 6 valve area. Kind of interesting to look at though. Got her all cleaned up. I did run this head gasket through the parts cleaner. They normally don't come out this clean. And I also ran the head through there. And mainly it was, number 1, the machine shop will charge me if it's not clean. And number 2, I just really wanted to give you guys kind of a nice detailed look. And now we're gonna go ahead, clean up the surface of the head, clean up the surface of the block. There are many different methods. I think one of the most interesting methods I've seen is by a guy up in Canada called Cutter Up on Instagram. What he does is he takes a flat stone with sandpaper and he actually figure eights these heads without taking it into the machine shop as kind of a DIY fix. I thought that was really cool. The head and block look okay, so I'm gonna just clean them up with a wire wheel on a cordless drill. After talking with Meyer, that seems to take off the least amount of material. You can use a scuzz pad. I would not recommend a flap disc. Basically you want something that's going to clean off the debris from the MLS coating without gouging into the metal. And then on the block here, the block actually looks really good, so we'll just go ahead and wire wheel that off, brake clean it. Again, I don't want to lead you guys down a path of this is the way I do it, so this is the only way to do it. This is just how I've had good success with it. And then I try to avoid getting debris into these push rod holes because that's actually filtered oil from the galley down here that pressurizes it. So I do try to keep a lot of debris out of there, and then I will suck all the head stud holes out with a shop vac to make sure they're clean. And to be honest with you guys, the push rod holes I don't worry too much about because those drain back into the oil pan, have to go back through the strainer and through the oil filter. So really the only galley that I worry about are these little push rod, or sorry, not push rod, the rocker arm feeds. Again, that comes from the oil filter, comes across the block on the second journal and pressurizes this driver's side oil galley. So that is the one I always look out for. I find earplugs work really good in here to keep debris out. And again, that number 4 hole is pretty bad. I'm gonna go ahead and check this thing for flatness. It's actually not too bad to the naked eye. So we're gonna grab.
Not gonna lie, Josh, you got that Justin Bieber hair going on.
Dude, it's
Looking good.
so bad, guys. Having some personal issues, so can't get a haircut right now.
It's not that dramatic.
So basically, I'm taking a 2000s feeler gauge and I'm setting the flat bar on, and if it obviously pulls the bar, you know that it's less than 2000s. Ooh.
Try flipping the bar around. You got that one side with the weird.
Oh.
Never mind. You got 6.5s, right? Hey.
Okay, so it's tight there. Tight there. Loose.
You can see a slight gap there.
Loose. Loose. Tight.
You
Tight.
got a slight bow in it.
And then obviously you want to check it. Basically you want to do in a, I guess a Y, I don't know, like 2 diagonals. So yeah, obviously this head's warped. And then you can also check it across as well. Generally on these inline engines, obviously it's going to want to warp with the length of the head. These heads are very narrow, given their obviously length. So safe to say that this head is a little bit warped. I honestly think 2000s would probably hold. I don't know the Cummins spec off the top of my head. I think it's actually plus or minus 2000s on cylinder head surface. But there's a little bit of pitting and stuff like that. We'll take this to the machine shop tomorrow and have them do a rush job on this so we can put it back together here quickly. That way I can give you guys what you want, which is rods hanging out the side of the block. And yeah, so this is a Goodson Tool and Supply engine builder straight edge. It appears to be about 36 inches in length. Let's see, 2 times, yeah, about, yeah, 18 times 2, yeah, so 36. And yeah, that's kind of how you check it. These are really expensive, and treat them with a lot of care. You don't want to drop them, stuff like that. They are machine surface. Obviously you want to, you know, take good care of that. Hopefully that kind of helps. Now we're gonna go ahead and basically this is what I do: cordless drill, wire wheel. I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out on the block. Again, blocking those oil galleys, and then clean up for the night so we can get this job ready to go tomorrow. You can see I got the oil galleys plugged off. We use the Harbor Freight ear plugs. They work really good. Yeah, this drill's stuck in hammer time.
Notice the swirling motion you've got going on here. This is extremely important.
So basically you're just wanting to take off any of the excess gasket material. Just kind of showing you guys. You could probably do this on an air tool, but I feel like the cordless drill gives you a little bit more control because you can kind of pulse the trigger. So I'll go ahead and get this knocked out and show you guys the finished product. Brake cleaned off, ready. Checked it, no more than 1,000th warped, which these decks are really hard to warp. I've never really seen one too bad. The only issues I see is that cylinder number 4, but we're gonna send it home just the way it is and call it a night. We'll pick this back up in the morning. We've come to the end. We got the head torn apart. We have looked at the gasket. Again, I think it's kind of interesting how it hit a blind hole to the block, but a open hole for the head, and it pressurized it. And then it also looks like 5 and 6 might have been sharing some combustion gases. Kind of hard to tell, but it did kind of have that evidence. And then also we found our blow-by on cylinder 4. That is really bad. Again, guys, I can't stress this enough. We have a new engine coming for it. If this was a customer's truck, or if you were paying me to do this job and I saw that, I would definitely talk you into rebuilding it. I know now where the blow-by is coming from. It's only going to get worse from here. I think what's happened is a ring broke. Judging by the scoring, it looks like probably the second ring, just by where the scuffs line up. And then, yeah, took you guys along. Hopefully you guys learned something. As always, guys, you guys have been awesome. Make sure you subscribe to continue on this journey. Watch us put this head back on fire ringed, probably the way we should have done it from the get-go. And like this video, go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.